At Hope Church, we are always talking about what it means to follow, grow, and live for Jesus. But what does that actually look like in your day-to-day life? Follow along with me, Jenny Miles, as we talk to members of our Hope team, partners of our church, as well as staff members, as they share real-life examples of what it looks like to be on journey with Jesus. Get inspired, be empowered, and experience the joy of serving Jesus through Hope Talks. Hey, welcome to Hope Talks. Today I am joined by Pastor Tad Grandstaff, and we are going to be talking all things Easter. We're officially in Easter season. You have your Easter shirt on. I didn't catch the memo because I also have this shirt, but nobody told me to wear it today.
I'm always going to wear a t-shirt to promote something.
So. For sure. I should have known. If I had been in the right frame of mind this morning, I would have been like, oh, you know what? I should match Pastor and grab my shirt because I know he'll be wearing his, but that's not where I was. I was in the my rodeo singing days.
I got you.
I'm not kidding. I put on my shirt this morning and Kason walked up to me and he's like, horses.
That's a win.
He was so excited. I know. I felt like a proud mom.
Yeah, you go.
Anyway, hey, I'm glad you're here.
Good to be here.
Thank you for taking the time to sit down this morning to talk. So, as we open these podcasts, by the way, this is podcast number 7.
The number of completion, right? The perfect number. Just happens to be I get picked for that number.
How fitting that you would be on here for episode number 7. But you probably know at this point, we open our episodes with a special drink per the guest that we have joining us. And I'm going to be honest with you. Weeks ago when we were planning this and talking about this, we had initially talked about doing this podcast the Monday after the Super Bowl.
Okay.
And I had already in my Amazon cart had a Chiefs mug that I was going to serve your drink in.
Now it holds your tears, right? Now it holds your tears in it.
But then Pastor, being the wise person that he is, said, Jenny, we're not going to be recording an episode the day after the Super Bowl because one of us will be
That's right.
in not a good place.
I said you will be upset is what I have prophetically said to you. I think you're going to be in a bad mood.
Yeah, I think you might be right, actually, when I recall. Anyway, regardless, we have now waited a few weeks, which is good. That was good. I feel better. Yeah, this is a better relationship now. Anyway, but with that said, I do not have a Chiefs mug for you. I just have a plain old cup. But it's funny because you're doing this, you have your, what is that on the table already?
MRE, protein shake, pre-gym workout.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
40 grams of protein. Here's 40 more grams of protein.
Wow, perfect.
So I think that you're probably really set for the gym today.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I don't know what 80 grams of protein does to you.
No, I'm not going to drink 80 grams before I go. No.
That seems a little dangerous.
I'll save that for after workout. How about that?
I will say I had a doctor's appointment yesterday and the doctor was like, so Jenny, what are your eating habits? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And she said, how often do you eat? And I was like, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And she was like, oh, no, that's not good. And I was like, what in the world? My whole life. She said, you should be doing 6 to 8 meals a day. And I'm thinking, what in the world?
Yeah.
But she said, you just need to have your protein snacks throughout the day.
I got you.
But I drink one of those a day.
They say the healthiest people are the grazers who just kind of have little meals, little pockets of snacks throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm probably not all that
I could drink most of my calories though. I'm a drinker. So I could drink a lot of calories and eat one big meal a day. I would be happy with that. But, yeah.
Apparently that's what I should be moving to. Anyway, so
this is a health podcast.
Congratulations on being healthy. Yeah. Anyway, there's your drink. Yeah. There's your 80 grams.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Pastor, you are on the stage every week, so people probably know a lot about you, but what is something that people don't know about you? How can you bring us in a little closer?
Well, before I get there, let me just say, excited to be on the podcast.
Oh, good, thanks.
I mean, I remember like a year and a half ago, you came to me and you said, I got this crazy idea for a podcast. And you kind of shared with me, I want to just interview some people on our staff and the church, share some stories, and utilize a platform in a different way. What do you think? And I was like, absolutely, do it. One of the things that we always say with our team is I just want people to dream. I want people to try new things. And immediately I was like, what do you need? What do you need? And so we're like, let's do it. And we're all talking about building a studio and doing all of that so we can get this thing moving forward. But it's been awesome just to hear the stories already and hopefully for you guys to just know a little bit more about some of our team leaders and people who lead as volunteers, but lead at a very high level and just hear their passion and share some of their stories. So that was a long introduction to your question, but nonetheless, I say, proud of you. This is awesome. It's going really well, and I can't wait to see what happens in the episodes to come. So
thank you, Pastor. And I do appreciate you. I remember going into that conversation and thinking, who knows what's going to come from this. But I also should have known that you're, like you said, you're always into the, hey, if you have a dream, let's pursue it. Let's do something. And so I'm very appreciative of that. Yeah. And to your point of it's been cool to have people, within the church who now get a platform to just kind of talk about what God's doing in their life. I had a girl come up to me this past week, and she said, Jenny, I've got to tell you, I have really enjoyed getting to know the people that have come on the podcast. She said, I'm going to be honest. She said, I sometimes look at these people who are on the stage, and I think that, they are just this, untouchable person. Yeah. She said, and now I just feel like we're friends. She's like, I just feel like, they're like me. They like the things I like. They do the things I do. Yeah, exactly. And so just her telling me that, it was like, oh,
that's awesome.
That's the goal.
That's the goal right
like
there.
We're wanting to connect this church and just, so yeah.
Excited.
I appreciate you bringing that up.
So, you want to know more about me or something someone doesn't know about me? That's hard because I'm a very open person.
You are.
So very, very transparent person.
That's why I thought I needed to tell you this question ahead of time.
So honestly, I was trying to think, I don't know what, I mean, if there's something that I do or I'm part of, I'm always talking about. It's like, I think of all the questions I was wrestling the most with, like, what does somebody not know about me? I couldn't come up with anything. Like, I mean, you know me enough to know, like, obviously, you're in ministry, we deal with people a lot. And so my safe place is my family, like I don't say that. My wife teaches, so she probably is not going to listen to this podcast right now. She doesn't have a lot of margin in her life.
Yeah.
But like spending time with Becky is like, that's what fills my tank. So our 20th anniversary is coming up. We're going on a trip together with no kids. And it cannot get here fast enough.
That's kind of a big deal for you guys.
Oh yeah, it's huge, man. Like we were in the kid making season for a while, and so we had gone I think at one point we had gone 10 years and not had a night away without kids.
That's
exhausting. Yeah, it is exhausting. It is. And so the last couple of years we've been able to do that, and this year being our 20th anniversary is a big deal. So so I got a camper, and I tell the stories, but when we can pull away from the madness, obviously, but Becky teaching, our kids being in school, man, the school year is just a blur. We're just trying to get to the summer and try to get some time away. So I love to camp, love to be with the family. As chaotic as it is, because it is chaotic.
Camping is a whole different ballgame. If you've never camped, you don't even understand what it means to be in such close proximity.
No, that's exactly
with
right.
17 people.
That's right.
All at once.
That's right. That's right.
It's hard.
Yep.
Props to you. You must really love your family.
I do. Even though I want to kill them half the time, they want to kill me, I'm sure. But we have a blast and it's fun. And so, but I couldn't, obviously I enjoy working out. Health has a benefit. But for me, I really do enjoy getting around a bunch of people who a lot of them don't go to church. Mm-hmm. And it is an outlet for me. It is a challenge for me. That's kind of how I've been anyway. And just seeing, over the last few years, several of the guys that are in the gym who started coming here and get involved in the church, those are huge wins for me, even outside of what I do week in and week out. So but those are things that I talk about. So, I don't know of anything that's anybody would sit at home and be like, really? I never heard him say that before. I don't know. Yeah. I just don't have anything like that because I'm always looking for content to share on Sunday morning. So,
Every single part of your life comes into the Sunday morning.
At some point, yes.
Yeah. And that's okay. I think that's what makes you being so transparent, people are so drawn to that. And so I realized that was going to be a hard question for you.
Yeah, it is. Unless you know of something. You might think of something and been like, I don't know. But what my sports teams are. You know what I'm doing with the kids.
Yeah.
I love to hunt. I talk about that too. So in the fall, I'm in the tree stand anytime I can get a chance. But that's about it.
What's the best hunting story that you have?
Oh, man.
Do you have a crazy I was out looking for a deer and I got a wildcat?
Yeah, I've had 3 really cool hunting stories with my youngest son, Keaton. He likes to hunt the most with me. So, I've shot a bobcat and a coyote with him. And then...
Hang on. This might be something people don't know.
Yeah.
Pastor likes to store his what is it? Wildlife? I don't know. His carcasses in the freezers. Any kind of freezer that we have here. It's probably housed a carcass from Pastor.
I just got a deer head out of the freezer just last week because it has been here since deer season. So the taxidermy didn't have any room, so it was in a holding pattern there. So he was holding on to that for me. So it is. It's pretty normal during hunting season to open up a freezer and see. I had a bobcat in there for over a year.
That terrified me. And my poor kid. This is something else that's funny. So a lot of your game is up in your office, and my son Levi, he went into Pastor Tad's office one time, and he said he will never go back in there. It scared him. So we're working on him. He's coming around to the idea of hunting, but I think your office is still kind of off limits for him.
Well, the guy who cleans our building, he told Doug he almost had a heart attack because it wasn't in the office, and then he came in, lights were off, cut the lights on, and there was a bobcat on the wall, and he fell on the floor. He said literally almost had a heart attack.
There you go.
So you asked about stories though, and then 2 years ago on Keaton's birthday, we went out and he shot his first deer. I had to obviously assist him on his birthday.
That was the coolest.
And a 6-point buck. He was really, really excited. So that's been some really
sweet.
Cool moments.
Do the girls hunt?
They have gone with me a few times. They're not into it as much, and like my oldest son Brogan, he'll go out there, but Keaton is really his thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself, and so let's just jump in.
Yeah.
Talking about Easter, all things Easter, and it's funny because I feel like we've been planning for Easter for quite a bit of time at this point.
Yeah.
Which this is my really second Easter being full-time staff, and so the whole planning process is still new to me. And so to think that we've been planning for a while now, I feel far more prepared.
Good.
This time around.
Good.
Maybe because I know what to expect at least versus, last year I was still new to it all. But it's an exciting season to be planning for.
Yeah.
And even when I think about Easter in general, and this just came to me the other day, I was actually saved on Easter weekend when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
So you will appreciate this. You probably grew up around this stuff, growing up in, church home and that sort of thing. But I got saved out of Faith Force. Okay. Do you know what Faith Force is?
Oh, yeah. Okay, absolutely.
Anyway, and so I can remember the guy, he was in handcuffs and he's breaking out of his handcuffs. And anyway, he gave me the handcuffs at the end when we had this conversation. And so I still have those handcuffs and I have the date written on it. Awesome. But I think about Easter weekend and it was when I was 10 years old. So I guess that was 2017.
Last year.
And but Easter is kind of a big deal, and so I just wanted to open it up with what are your connotations with Easter? Do you have growing up in a big church family?
Yeah.
What was Easter for you guys?
Hey, I grew up at when I say a big church, I mean we're talking 35,000 member church. So you're talking about a huge church. So when we had kind of 2 Super Bowl Sunday weekends a year, which was kind of Christmas and Easter. And so, not talk too much about Christmas, but Christmas, if you've ever heard of the living Christmas tree, which is a massive, you can picture a massive tree on stage with 150 people in a choir in a tree. If you've ever seen that before, it started at our church. They kind of had a big deal. So the biggest of big events you could ever have.
Yeah.
And so Easter was huge. I mean, when I say huge, our church started at Liberty University, so we would go to the football stadium, and I'm telling you, chairs would be all 100 yards of the football field with a stage in the end zone, and then the entire stands, and it would be standing room only, packed out. Huge sunrise service on the mountain, sun coming up behind Liberty Mountain, and it was a huge deal. And so I do know this, even though the event was big, it was always centered around Jesus. I mean, the reality is that this is a huge weekend, and people ask why it is such a big deal, and why it was such a big deal for me is because, man, our faith hinges on this. I mean, Good Friday is a day that Jesus dies, which is unbelievable that he would give his life for us and sacrifice for us.
Right.
But if the story ends on Friday that Jesus dies for us, then Jesus isn't in fact the Son of God. He isn't all of the things that he claimed to be. There really isn't any hope for our life or salvation from sin, because no one's actually defeated any of those things.
Right.
And so the resurrection is the pinnacle really of our entire faith.
Yeah.
So again, I grew up at a place where that was really appreciated and valued, and we'll talk a little bit more about leveraging that opportunity to be able to reach people for Jesus, because it was a huge deal. So I can remember as a kid, I mean, again, I grew up in Baptist environment, so, you're going to put on your shirt and tie, you're going to come to Easter Sunday, everybody had to have on their Easter best, and we don't really operate that way here. We want people just to come as they are. But it was just something special, man. It was something special about the day, a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of excitement, and just a huge day, huge celebration.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny that you talk about, and I've never really talked to you about this, but you talk about how as a kid you were part of a church that was going to a different location for Easter because it was so big. The event, it was an event that is so highly attended, and people are coming, but that don't typically go to church. Probably, this is a high attendance Sunday because people are willing to come to church on Easter and Christmas. But in years past, we've gone to Williams High School to have our Easter service, and so you grew up, I guess, going to a different location for Easter, and like that was not a foreign concept to you. And I don't know that I had realized that. That feels like it was like going to Williams High School these last couple of years. And that was a big move, but the energy that goes into it is so fun. I mean, I think about the Saturday, and again, last Easter was my first Easter in full-time, situation. And I remember being like, I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm doing. And hopefully you guys feel confident in what I'm telling you we're going to do right now. But it's a lot of setup, that goes into it. But this year we're going to be here. And it's going to be across 5 services. And that's a big undertaking in itself.
That's right.
But I get excited for it. So what was the reason that you think we came back here this year? Having done that traditionally and you having grown up going to a location for Easter?
Well, I think two ways to answer the question. One, going was to kind of regain vision of understanding like Easter's bigger than us. And we used to always say, like when we first started the church, like if you're a follower of Jesus, Easter's for you to celebrate, but I really don't think Easter's for you. And I know that's hard for us to hear. It is. We need to celebrate it. It is our best opportunity to reach someone who doesn't attend church or doesn't follow Jesus. So some of that was, hey, as our church was kind of growing and building, we wanted to try to get everybody under one roof just for a big day of worship and celebration. One, I don't think people realize just the growth that's happened in our church. And so even though we get a lot of guests, a lot of those people there, they're just our people. You just, over 2 services, people don't attend every week. You get a chance to see that. So part of it was getting there. But really we wanted to bring it back here because the auditorium, I mean, it's a 2,600 seat auditorium. The stage was so far away. I feel like a lot of things got lost in translation. One, we're very personable, and I just felt like I felt disconnected from the people. I feel like our band felt disconnected from the people. You being on stage felt disconnected from the people. I felt like one of our strong suits is what we do for kids week in, week out. We couldn't offer that for kids. We didn't have the space there. So there was some great things because I do think there was a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. It was a huge day of celebration. So nothing was lost in that. But I think bringing it back here, we get to really personally touch people the way that we want to and really connect with people. And then obviously offer something for kids because I do think families are looking for something that their kids can be impacted by. And so really giving the kids something they can rally behind to make Easter a really big day for them, because let's be honest, them sitting in the service with us is not a lot of fun, no matter how exciting it is, and parents can't really concentrate either. So bringing it here, I think for us just offers us opportunity, one, to get a bunch of people involved over the 5 services, but creates the best opportunity we can to serve people. And that really is our heart. So and
I think that is our heart. That is the goal, is that people would truly see the heart of our church. And that takes place in this building. And it takes place in kids ministry, where kids are getting an opportunity to learn about Jesus on their level. Because I'm going to be honest, as a parent, something that I struggle with is getting on my kid's level. And maybe it's because my kid and I are very different. I think about Levi specifically. He's very creative and I am not. And so to be able to explain things, in a way that he's going to understand and take and resonate with, it's very different than when he can go into kids ministry and somebody who is trained to do that, to be on his level, can explain it in a new way. And then he comes home and he tells me about it. And oh my word, does that not feel just like the best thing in the world, is that like light bulbs are going off in my kid.
I love it.
And so I love that we have the opportunity to do that this year across all ages. And again, just there's something special about walking onto this place. And I feel like we mentioned it this morning, even in our staff meeting, but people have commented that pulling into this parking lot, like, I think the Holy Spirit is just so
I believe it.
pressing on this place that you feel it even in that moment. And so why would we not want people to be here?
Lean into it. That's right.
Yeah. So I get really excited about that. So the idea that we're inviting people to Easter, we just had Who's Your One Sunday this past 2 weeks ago Sunday, and Who's Your One has been a thing here for 3 years, right? That we've had these cards that we fill out.
3 or 4, I can't remember. Yeah.
And so the premise behind that is that God is going to put somebody on your heart that you need to press into, because he's put it on your heart for a reason, right? That person needs to experience Jesus. That person needs an invite to church, or, with something that is going to draw them to the heart of Jesus. And so just kind of what's the vision behind Who's Your One? Have you heard of any success stories that have happened? We asked for success stories at the end of that service. So what have you heard?
Yeah, I mean, Who's Your One was birthed a couple years ago out of just like, hey, we're heading into a natural time when people are already looking for church. And so, we're not trying to manipulate anybody into anything. This is just the reality. Statistically, we know that people are looking to go to church at Easter.
Right.
So if there's already a natural time when people are naturally bent to look for a church, why would we not utilize that to our advantage?
Right.
Right. So it's like, hey, if we know that, we got friends and family, they're looking to go somewhere.
Yeah.
If we love Hope Church and we believe that the Holy Spirit is here and that we're going to preach the truth and we're going to stand on the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, then why would we not leverage that opportunity to get somebody here? And so Who's Your One was birthed out of just reminding ourselves that we can get so busy, even doing church, even attending, that we just forget about people.
100%.
And so it was just a day to remind us that there should always be somebody on our heart, and we should always be looking for that opportunity. And again, what I've loved over the last few years is just the awareness for people to be able to put somebody on their mind. And they always are passing people through the week, but now they've been marked by someone. And now it's like they're seeing that person in a different way. They're looking for opportunities differently. And then we hear the stories. I mean, I was in group this morning and I had a guy tell me, he said, hey, I was able to have a conversation just yesterday with my one. I see this person every day, every week, but God put him on my heart. He said, and we had the most unbelievable conversation yesterday that opened the door for me to be able to invite him to church. And he said, I don't think it would have happened if I would not have written his name down and committed to praying for him. God opened the door.
Absolutely.
Now, was the door there before? Yes.
Yeah.
But you see the moment different, and you see, and there's a moment of opportunity there, and it's like, I prayed for this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna step into it, right?
Yeah.
And so that's one of them. I had a Larry Underwood came to me on Sunday morning and said, hey, my Who's Your One story may be a little different, may not be what you call success. I said, well, what is it? He said, well, I had this one, a guy at work who was always kind of challenging me on my faith and kind of pushed back, and it was kind of, I had a wall up to church. He said, so he was my Who's Your One last year. He said, me and Tara, we put our Who's Our One beside our bed. We pray for him at nighttime. He said, and as I was inviting him to church, he said, he didn't come here. And I said, okay. He said, but he went to church. And he said, and he gave his life to Jesus. And man, he's completely changed. Like God's doing a work in his life. And I said, well, that's an incredible success story. I said, selfishly, I want everybody to come to Hope Church.
Because it's the greatest church.
Of course.
Right?
Whatever.
That's what we think.
And obviously, when we first started the church, I think, you don't have anything. So you're trying to turn it into something. And so you want everything to happen here and have control over it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we say this and we mean this. I just want people somewhere. If it's a church that's going to teach the Bible, that's going to teach the death, burial, resurrection of Jesus, that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and there's no way to God the Father except through Jesus, then, man, I'm great with it. Get them to a church.
Right.
As long as there's
That's how the gospel goes to the ends of the earth, right?
That's right. You know what I mean?
It's not all
just
right
go
here.
through us. We're not the only bypass. As much as I would love to think that we are, we're not.
Right.
And so I think it's a huge success story to say, hey, I pray for this person. Maybe God used me to put some little seeds out, but yet somebody else reaped the benefit of that. No, the church did. We did. The faith did. Well, we're all part of it, and that person's going to be in heaven one day because we were part of expanding the kingdom here on earth, and that's the mission, right?
Yes.
And again, I know that sounds like so spiritual and like so humble, like to say that out loud, but it's the truth, right? Like we should have that heart, or we're in the wrong business, right? And so it's like if it really is about kingdom advancement, about making heaven more full, then you know what? Hey, man, there's some great churches in this community who love Jesus. Let's get you somewhere, man.
Exactly.
Let's get you somewhere. So,
Exactly. Yeah, that's exciting. I talked to a couple of people in Student Hope this past week too about their Who's Your One, and one of the girls, she said, last year my Who's Your One is literally up front with me on the front row every Sunday now, praising God and throwing down in worship is what she said. And it's just so cool. Again, I mentioned it from the stage on Sunday, but it's so encouraging to see even our students taking this challenge and pursuing a person and not stopping until that person has met Jesus, right? That is what they're doing. It's really beautiful. We had a text message come through this morning from one of our church members who said, hey, I have been, looking to get my family here for so long. And she said, we just so happen to have an opportunity this year where we have a family member that's getting married Easter weekend. And she said, I have asked my family, hey, before we go to rehearsal dinner Friday night, let's go to church at 4:00.
Yeah.
And she said, and they said yes.
Yeah.
And she's so excited. And I, this person in particular, she is a prayer warrior. Like if there was a definition of a prayer warrior, it is this person. And she has earnestly been praying for years. And so I know she is on cloud 9 that, she got a yes from her family. And so I'm excited to see what God does through that. And her heart behind it, her heart is just that her family would know Jesus, right? Like how beautiful. And that God is going to honor her prayer right there. It's special.
Well, the cool part about it is that we talked a little bit about it on the message of the Sunday of Who's Your One. Like when you see that happen, like when you see the opportunity and then you see somebody come to church for the first time, or you see them in the getting baptized, you see them going forward or whatever, going to the next steps or whatever, like the fulfillment in that, you know? So like we had kind of gotten away from making like a day of Who's Your One, but like I remember back when we started the church, we used to have this big black glossy board and it just had one on it. And we had kind of presented this idea back, all the way back in 2007 when we started the church. And we had these like neon markers and you could come write people's names on them. And it just kind of grew. And then we actually had it put into the front of the stage where it had people's names on it. And I have a family who's been with us since I think our very first service. And it was probably 3 or 4 years ago. They walked up to me on Sunday morning and they said, hey, I wrote their name down all the way back in 2007 on that board. And here it is, 15 years later. And it's like, and they showed up today to church. And it's like, that is so powerful. To see just the result of a prayer from that long ago. And what that does in your mind of seeing like, God's still true to his word. It doesn't mean it's going to instantly happen. In
your timeline, exactly.
But God's working. So it's cool.
That's encouraging. Something else I think about when I look on these boards, right? Because we have these, names pinned on the board. It's really powerful. And the thing is like, there's nobody that has written like, I, Jenny Miles, am praying for, this person. But to look on that board and see mom, dad, mama, Aunt Linda, whatever it might be, like these are really personal to them. And I also think about just my situation where my immediate family, they know Jesus, and like I don't know, that feels good to know that my family knows Jesus, but to think of the heartbreak to know that I don't, if I didn't know that my mom knew Jesus or, and how pressing that would be on my heart to just day in and day out pray for that salvation moment. And anyway, so I feel like it can be very emotional to look at those boards and to think about, again, the heart behind, I need this person to know Jesus. But then to think about when that person does meet Jesus and the people that they will have had the opportunity to impact because you prayed for that one person and that person then went out and they did the same. They, and having a relationship, they went out and they built up relationships for people to experience Jesus as well. Anyway, it's just a really cool.
Listen, and it's so powerful because you brought up the students. Like I got in my son's truck this week and I saw his Who's Your One card in his truck with someone's name on it. And I went to my daughter's room and I saw up there on her dresser Who's Your One card with someone's name on it. And then I think about like my youngest daughter, Lula. There are 2 families that are here today that are super involved, leading in multiple ministry areas. And it was because Lula invited their daughter to church. And then the whole family ended up coming. And then you look at that. So like, again, we look at the power of kids. I mean, and what they can do by just kid inviting someone, a student inviting somebody. So again, we could talk all day long about it, but I just think, just watching God work in that way and then seeing your kids, You know, like, again, when this lady who serves on our prayer team came to me and she said, we are here because your daughter invited my daughter to church. You know what I mean? Like, and for me to go back and tell Lula that, she was just like, what? You know, like,
yeah.
I could be a part of impacting somebody's family. Like, well, she's putting all that together.
Lula,
or not,
you have influence.
Yeah, that's right. That's pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool.
That is so special.
Yeah.
Good for Lula.
Yeah.
You have some pretty cool kids.
Some days.
Usually, right? You have some pretty cool kids. Usually I have some pretty cool kids too. I don't know. So all of that being said, for Easter this year, you have said the number 1,900 people.
Yeah.
That's what we want to see at Easter.
Yeah.
And for Easter to take place at that capacity at 1,900 people, we need to have a certain amount of people who are serving, who have stepped into saying, hey, I'm going to help bring these people into the church. I'm going to be a resource for when these people come. We're going to trust that 1,900 people are going to come because the X amount of people have been put in place to be a resource on that day to volunteer. So what is that magic number? Yeah,
I mean, I think engagement is what drives attendance. So what we've discovered over many years is the more people that are engaged, the more the attendance numbers goes up. Because when you're part of it and you're connected, you're bringing people along and you got family that's coming. And I think when you're not engaged, it's just easy to make Easter an event that you just go to. And what we're trying to do is make give people an opportunity to be part of something.
Right.
So the magic number is 20%. And so that's just kind of nationally. I think we'll exceed that because we just have a church that always seems to exceed any number we put out there. So the 1,900 is just a goal. So we just look at just where we are as a church, where we're growing. And so we just put out a number like, we want to see 1,900 people show up.
Right.
Honestly, I think we have potential to blow that out of the water.
Yeah.
We may come short of that. It doesn't really matter because the heart is we just want to point somebody to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
So the 20% number is 385 people. So we want to see 385 people who are engaged in serving one of the 5 services that weekend, because that engagement, what it allows two things. It allows an individual to be part of what God's doing for the weekend, connect your heart to Easter weekend so that it's not just an event.
Right.
But it also allows you to be able to serve so that somebody can bring a friend. So we're saying, hey, we want everybody to sit with somebody they're inviting and also serve so somebody else can sit with somebody they're inviting. Right. So what that provides is, again, we've talked a lot about not just consuming something, but it allows everybody a chance to have the same opportunity to attend one and serve one. And that's the goal. So
was it back in February, maybe January, that we started doing this big volunteer push just for our church in general? This is outside of Easter. And I have been blown away. You talk about our church exceeding numbers. But on the guest services team, I want to say I had maybe 68 people total on my guest services team, which felt like a great, robust number. And as I was looking the other day to send out an email to all my guest services people, just from that initial volunteer push to now, my team is at 108 people.
Come on.
And it's like 40 people over 6 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
And it is so exciting.
That's crazy.
But to think that we are creating opportunity for more people to come in and to be a part of this bigger thing, right? This bigger thing, the church, is really special. And it's put me in this place where, okay, the roles that I traditionally had in guest services, well, they're filled. So I'm having to create more roles. But what I see in that is that that's creating more opportunity for people to be impacted in a bigger way. So now we have these wagon rides that are happening in the parking lot. And it's like, if kids are excited to jump in a wagon and be pulled to where they're going to go get their sticker before they go into the church to get checked in to go into their really awesome class, then they're going to be excited every week, and they are going to be the ones that drive their parents to church, right? Like, hey, Mom, tomorrow's Sunday, we're getting up early, right? You know, like that's a big deal. And so to think that we're going to have even more volunteers coming in to be a part of these teams, to create more opportunity for people to be cared for and loved on and seen, because people crave that. They are missing this connection with people.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what 385 people in place here at this church looks like.
Oh, I can't either. I mean, and again, I think all what you're talking about is when we create a space, like we went to 3 services and we say, listen, we already got people who are serving the 2.
Right.
Like to get to 3, this is a new opportunity. And how many people are like, oh, I didn't even know there was an opportunity. I didn't know there was a need. You know, there's an assumption that like the church is full, we're out of opportunity. And it's like, hey, if creating another service opened up more opportunities for people to come be part of the church, then man, we'll keep adding services. And so, I mean, 3 is probably heading towards 4 as we get to the fall. And we kind of know that, but it's just going to create more opportunities for people to come, because again, that's when the church becomes personal. There's a distance when I just come, I observe, I sit, versus like, man, I'm part of it. And so when you talk about that new fresh blood, man, I get so excited. One, we got people who are so faithful and committed, been serving year in and year out. They're giving high fives and they're loving it.
Yeah.
But something about new people with new eyes just brings a new energy to everybody. So it rejuvenates everybody, right?
Yes.
So like these people are so excited and they're meeting people and they're connecting and it's awesome to watch. And I think that's one of the beauties of the church that you miss out on if you're not engaged.
Yes,
and so
100%.
That's what
I mentioned it earlier to you in the week, but I had a volunteer who reached out and said, Jenny, I'm so excited. And this is a volunteer that he has been here volunteering as long as I can ever remember, right? Like as long as I've been here for sure, before me. Anyway, and he's like, I haven't seen our Hope teams this healthy in a long time. And I think it's what you just said. It's the new blood that has just rejuvenated everybody. Mm-hmm. And so just an encouragement to those who are now involved that maybe weren't before, or those who are contemplating like, hey, I think I'm going to sign up to serve at Easter. Don't underestimate the influence that you have and the impact that you will make, not just to the people who are walking into our church for the first time, but to the people who are already here. Yeah. Like you are a ministry to them. Yeah. And that is the body of Christ, right? Like that's how we all operate together. That's how we work off of each other. And wow, what it does when everybody's involved, when everybody's working at their particular function, it just comes together in a beautiful way.
Like the Bible, right? Like we're all
Wouldn't
one big body with a bunch of different parts, and when they all comes together, it all functions properly and healthily. And that's the mission, and that's the goal. And so we are always telling people, hey, like, if you're not part of it, then the body isn't at max capacity. It isn't at full potential. So, and then the kind of crazy vision is that there's always going to be, like, there's always room for the body to continue to grow. And so it just keeps moving forward. So it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So something else that we get to do this Easter, and this is kind of brand new too, is we've seen that we have this huge influx of college students at our church. Yeah. And it is so beautiful to just see this young generation of people walking in on Sundays, and they're bringing guests like every week. It is amazing that, we'll have somebody come up to connect and they're like, this is my roommate. She's here for the first time. And it's like, well, how many roommates do you have? I really thought I'd already met all your roommates, but that's just really special. But this Easter, we're saying, because what we have found is that, several of our college students are athletes and they don't get to go home for Easter. Yeah. So they're going to be here. They're going to be in town. And they're going to be here without their family. Yeah. And so what we want to do is create an opportunity for them to come early so that we can love on them. We can give them breakfast before they, attend service and then head out to their games, because they have games Easter Sunday, which is wild. Yep. Anyway, so that's something that we're getting to do. Yeah. I probably just took all the words you may have said, but speak to that if you can for just a minute.
I mean, it's awesome and frustrating at the same time, because for I don't know, man, 15 years we tried to reach college students. Right. And it was we kept trying to figure out how to connect with Elon students and how to get on some college campuses. And it just felt like brick wall after brick wall, brick wall. So I said, that's the frustrating part, is we were man, we just felt tapped out. And then the amazing part is about a year and a half, 2 years ago, out of nowhere. Yeah. It was God used a couple, and this is why college students, again, I hope they just see the potential that lies inside of them. It was one or two of these students that came in, and God used them to be these catalysts for that campus. And it started with some of the volleyball team and the softball team, and then it just took off. Yeah. And God opened a door with us being involved with FCA there, and Pastor Doug and Pastor Joshua and Pastor Brian and Joe Carter, all part of FCA on Wednesday nights. And from there, it's just kind of snowballed. And it's been this amazing thing of people being able to find a home and be connected. And it's just cool to see when it's a God thing versus us, because I look at people and I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, man, we had nothing to do with this. Yeah. We woke up one day and we're where are all these college students from? Right. And if you were there last year, it was really cool because a lot of the pictures had gone online, but the whole softball team from Elon was there taking a picture outside, and pretty much the whole volleyball team was there, and half the baseball team was there. And it was God, you've done all of this, man. We got we weren't part of FCA then at that point, so it was God, this is all you. You just did this. And so, but I think to be able to have a place, these kids, a lot of them from out of state, being able to come here and they've been able to connect. I think about the ones who got into groups. like in Faye Lucas's group the other year, and Faye was like a mom to them, man, and just loved on them. And so doing the Friendsgiving that we've been able to do and offer them a meal during the Thanksgiving season and having breakfast before, I think it's just a awesome place that we can provide community for them. While they're here, they feel like this is my home while I'm here. And if many of them probably aren't going to make Burlington their forever home, right? That's just reality. But if God has us at this point to give them a place to see the church in a new light, to see the importance of being connected to the church, and then that launches them into their, when I say they're adults, they're already adults, but I mean into their adult life, marriage life, family, kids, and they see like, I need a church family to be connected to. And that's a huge win. It's a huge win. It's a win for us in the season that we have them, and a win that we get to send them out of here in a place where they see the beauty of the church. So it's cool.
And that's why I'm excited that we get to love on them in a special way that day.
Absolutely.
For Easter at Hope.
Absolutely.
So I can't wait to see what that turns into.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay, so our guests come to Easter at Hope. What are you looking that they would take away from Easter at Hope?
Our guests.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot going through the mind. I mean, if we try to peg the guest and think what each one of them are thinking, people all over the map, between bad church experiences, between having their wall up to God in church. I don't even know what's going through the mind of somebody. So obviously coming here, and I think what we excel really well at is we create a really authentic, welcoming environment. Like I don't think we have to pay anybody to pretend like they're excited somebody came to church. Our people are genuinely excited to meet somebody today. The people who have been coming, but also to meet that guest who's coming for the first time. We kind of make a cliche statement, but we've said we've never had a Sunday in the history of our church that hasn't been somebody's first Sunday. So we always want to have those eyes to see people. And so I think guests coming in, we just want to win them over. Just with a heart of saying, man, we thought about you. You're important. We did this today. Part of what we're here today is for you, and you're part of this. You can be family here. We want to honor you. That's why we want to give you a gift. We want to give you a cup of coffee. We want to honor your kids. Like all of it is, we want to honor you, want to appreciate your time. But really at the end of the day, all of that is just to open a heart, tear down a wall, that somebody may be receptive to hear the prompting of the Holy Spirit, to hear about what Jesus has done. And so obviously, ideally, we would love for someone to meet Jesus and to respond to the call on their life that he desires, a deep, intimate relationship with them. And, I think for years, as a pastor, I used to put so much pressure on myself, like Easter weekend. I used to think, man, I got to preach this message in a way that no one's ever heard it before. And I got to make Easter so engaging. And man, years back, I just said, you know what? That's crazy. I mean, this is just peel it all back. Like the gospel has stood on itself for thousands of years. It doesn't need me to dress it up. It doesn't need me. Now, again, I have a responsibility, I think, not to bore people and just dump information on you and you're just sitting there like, I don't even know what he's talking about. Like we want to make it alive. We're passionate about it. That's part of who we are. But at the end of the day, the power of the gospel stands on its own. So it's like, I just want to be faithful that day to teaching God's word, to presenting his story of truth. And then I'm just going to put the pressure back on him to say, hey, you're in the business of changing hearts and lives. I can't do that.
Exactly.
We can create an environment that's conducive to that. We can welcome people. We can make sure we do everything we do to eliminate every barrier possible. But I cannot move somebody towards the heart of Jesus. Only you can. And so, but I think I get more excited now than ever with Easter because I took a lot of the pressure off of myself. And so I feel like the last couple of years, Easter has been, I'll be honest with you, I used to dread it. It used to just be this weight of
it's heavy. Or could be heavy.
It was very heavy. I mean, it's still a heavy weekend. There's a lot in the balance, but I don't feel the pressure to perform anymore at all. And there was a season of life that I did. Man, I've got to wow somebody with a message. And shame on me for that, but I think you're young and you're just trying to figure it out. And now I'm like, I just want people to be wowed by Jesus. That's it. It's the end of the day. That's it. And if I honor that and do that well, I can go home and rest. And whatever the numbers are, I don't really care. I mean, there's been a couple of Easters I'm like, I don't want to know the numbers because I don't want to judge the day based off of the numbers. The numbers aren't, it's awesome to see God growing, but it'd be so easy to have an awesome Sunday and be like, oh, we only had 1,600 people here. Or to be like, we lost.
What
That's
a bummer.
Stupid. I mean, how crazy is that? So,
We're reading we've been reading through a book as a staff, and I think the perspective of people are all around us are in prison, right? Like walking around us just in prison by anxiety, by shame, by just guilt, just this heaviness. And to think that if on Easter Sunday, people left being freed from those shackles. I feel like that has just given me this new drive of, I want to tear walls down. Like, I want people to come in here to feel comfortable and safe so that God can provide freedom for them, like to allow them to walk into freedom and to experience him in a brand new way. And to then not just for that to be almost like a launching pad for what they're going to go out and do without those shackles, you know, like, oh man, I get so excited for that. And every single one of us coming into the walls of this church have the opportunity to experience freedom in a new way, you know, right? Because God's always working on our hearts and growing us. And so just thinking of Easter, what it can be as a launching pad for people who don't know him, for people who do know him, for people who are looking to minister to their families in a new way. And just, I don't know, just knowing that God is going to breathe fresh life into each and every one of us, not only at Easter, at every, you know, single encounter with him throughout the year. But Easter's just a big one, and I'm excited for that.
I mean, the really awesome part is we you know, we're staff, so we and again, our team, our entire staff team does such a great job pouring into other people. But I think the really cool part is, like, when we started the church, you know, like when we came here and we started the church, there was nothing really like what we were doing in this area. And so sometimes it was like, man, I want people to see it. And sometimes you beat your head against the wall because you're like, I don't know if the people really get it. We're at a place now where our people get it as much as we do, and they're as passionate about it as we are. And so, like, I mean, when I was first starting a church, people would say things to me like, Tad, no one will ever be as passionate about the church as you are. And you know what? That was wrong. That's not true. There are people on our staff team, and there are plenty of people in this church who are as equally as passionate, if not more passionate than me sometimes. I mean, and I'll say that in a positive way. There's seasons you just get dry, and you know, and they feed my soul because they bleed the vision, they bleed the culture. They're so excited, and it's so genuine. And I think that's just, again, that's so refreshing. Ministry is hard. Being in church can be hard, but it isn't so hard when you have people, man, who lock arms with you and they want to run with you. And we just have such a core of people who are like, let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's get it. You know what I mean? They're with us heart and soul, which is awesome. So, yeah.
And I think that leads into my final question, which was, how can the church kind of rally around in this time of Easter?
Yeah.
And gosh, if you're one of those people who are the encourager, who are the, you know, that just, you can breathe life into somebody, do it.
Yeah.
Like, just do it, you know? Pour into the people that are on your team, pour into the people that are in your classroom on a Sunday morning, pour into, whoever God has put in front of you. Don't neglect what the Holy Spirit has put on your heart. And do that.
I mean, the opportunity in front of us is great. I mean, again, I think we're at a place in our world where people are more hungry, more open. I mean, I think stats have proven that people are more open to spiritual conversations. People are more open to, like, we come out of a season where people don't trust anything, and so they don't think anything is truth, but yet they're hungry for truth. And so I think the opportunity is so great. We see a generation, we talk like college students right now. I mean, you look across the globe right now. I mean, there is a revival amongst 18 to 25-year-olds. Like, there's a generation hungry for the things of God. And so I just think for us, the challenge is if we could all step into the moment, know there's people around us, family members, friends, who, again, I'm not saying that Easter is it. Like, it's like, man, if you just give me Easter, it's a step. It's a step into the door. And they may not come at Easter. They may go somewhere else. Who cares? It's just you stepping into that moment and just trusting and seeing what God could do. And if all of us took that seriously and we all stepped into it, what might God do through us?
Right.
What could he do?
Right.
Like, I mean, like, it's crazy it is for us to think if every single person had someone come, we wouldn't have enough room in 5 services to do what we're doing, right? And so you just think of every one of those people as a potential of what God could do in someone's life. And so that gets me excited. The baptisms on Easter Sunday or Easter weekend got me so excited. It's just going to be an amazing weekend of just celebrating resurrection of life, man. I think it's gonna be awesome. So I can't wait. I can't wait to see what God has in store. So
I'm more pumped now than I was walking into this podcast episode. Thank you. Okay, so at the end of our podcast, we always have these, like rapid fire questions, and there's no trivia situation today because, let's be honest, I think I would win. If it's just me. No, I'm just kidding. I absolutely win. Anyway, but what I did want to do, I was thinking about like, okay, let's just get to know Pastor a little bit more.
Okay.
So I've just got a couple questions
All good.
that we'll just.
And I have not seen these questions ahead of time. I have no idea what you're about to ask me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you nervous?
Maybe.
Okay. You shouldn't be. All right. What was your favorite class in school growing up?
Man, lunch.
That's not a class. You can't even pick
PE.
that. Okay, PE. I would
Yeah.
agree with you. I took
Yeah.
5 PEs in
Yeah.
I was in PE 5.
Yeah.
And they told me I needed to stop taking PE because it looked bad on my resume, my transcripts. So anyway, but yeah, PE. Very good. Okay, but then when you got into college, what was your favorite collegiate class? What was your favorite class in college?
Man, I hated college. I was not ready for that. I was going to get in graphic design for a little bit, so
Okay.
probably graphic design class was probably my favorite.
That's so interesting that
Yeah.
graphic design was your favorite class when you went to school for.
Well, I didn't have any study habits, so
I
like
got
doing
you.
work and studying, anything involved studying and doing work was not where I was at that point in my life.
Yeah.
And if you know, so I didn't finish my degree when I was in college. So I had to come back years later,
I
and
gotcha.
so then I would say, man, like biblical studies and all that I went into was it. But
Right.
back then, I thought I was going to be in either. I wanted to go into like being CSI, like crime scene investigation,
Mm-hmm.
or graphic design was kind of where I was kind of venturing into. So, anyways.
Yeah. Well, my husband is in graphic design, and he always like his graphic design classes were always like coloring was homework.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can understand how
Yeah,
that was a
it was
really
fun.
fun class.
That's right,
Why
that's
not?
right, that's right.
Okay. If you had to play a game of pick up kickball or pick up ultimate frisbee, which would you choose?
Kickball.
Oh wow, interesting.
And I just want to remind you that when we came to your house this summer,
Can you- I
that,
did- I
that
shouldn't-
we beat you in kickball. I just want to remind you that my team beat your team in kickball this summer at your house. So kickball. for
Okay,
sure.
well, that's interesting
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have brought this up, but I should have known you would have brought that up. Anyway, it's funny. Okay, so this past Sunday in the lobby, one of the guys who came out this past summer, he was like, "Hey, Jenny, have you like got the dates on the calendar this year for coming out to your house again for the kickball games?" And I was like, "Well, I guess I should put those on the calendar then, huh?" So we'll have a rematch. Okay, just rest assured.
Perfect. All right.
Rest assured. And I'm going to be doing some recruiting between now and then. So your team will not win this year. All right. Let's see. What is the one food that you are absolutely repulsed by?
Oh, onions.
Interesting. Really?
Hate onions.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even like the smallest, minute piece of onion, it's a texture thing. Like I cannot stand. I don't mind the flavor,
Oh, that was
but
kind of a
like
question.
onion powder, sometimes I'll put on something. But
Yeah.
like onion and anything, I mean, I'm done. Out.
Okay. I was expecting like I don't know, some sort of like exotic meat or something. I don't know.
No,
Just
no,
something
onions.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's where I
that's
draw the line.
all right. Interesting. And then this is just a question that I had because we know your collegiate, basketball team. We know your NFL team. We know those teams. Do you have an MLB team? Like, do you have a?
Well, not really. I mean, I was in Atlanta for a while, so I went to a ton of Braves
wondered if
games.
you were
I went
Braves.
to a ton of Braves games. Obviously, I grew up in Virginia, and we didn't have the Nationals back then, so we would go to Baltimore a lot to some of the Ann Arbor games there in Baltimore. But I never really. I mean, like growing up, I was a big Ken Griffey Jr. fan, so like I would cheer for the Mariners. I loved him, followed him, and then I kind of got out of baseball.
Yeah.
So like if I still said I had a home team, I'd probably cheer for Atlanta. But I mean, I would be totally bandwagon on that at this point in my life because I haven't been cheering for him. So no.
You
not really.
got to pick a time and start. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, like, so if I'm in a state, like, I was in Boston, I went to a Red Sox game. I was in New York, I went to a Yankees game. I was out in Cincinnati, I went to a Reds game, and I'm going to buy a hat and wear it while I'm there. Like, and,
Right.
and all the Yankees people were mad at me for wearing a Red Sox hat. And I was like, I don't really have any loyalties. It's kind of like NBA. Like, I had an NBA team for years.
Yeah.
And then NBA to me, I can't watch it anymore. It's just,
Yeah.
but I cheer for a lot of the teams because some of the Carolina players and different people. So,
Right.
like, I'll
I've
just
gone through there.
go team, whatever team it is. But, after Kobe moved on in life and passed on, I just stopped following it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That's the only questions I have for you.
It's good.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you for
Yeah.
just kind of sharing your heart. I feel like the heart of our church is a straight reflection of your heart. And so I really enjoy being here.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Glad to have you here.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Pastor. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. All right. Well, that's episode 7. Thanks for being here.
All right.